I bend so much metal already, so I kind of know what I'm doing, but I kind of not. We'll have longer soldering shots that you asked for. In certain steps, we actually can correct a lot of the sizing that we are trying to achieve. While I was making the ring, I had so many issues in the way. You're having that locked shape in, and you can bend it how much you want, actually. It's so uniform. It's like perfect in the shape. And we have a beautiful, beautiful piece. Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. For today, I have a very, very cool ring to show you. It's stunning. I have it with me here. Like, look at that. All this ring is made from just D-shaped wire. We have two different sizes of D-shaped wire, and we're creating all the ring. Just from that, okay, we have an inside ring this time too, because you know, when we have some kind of pattern, we want something inside as well. So we have inside too, but it looks so uniformed, like it was melted, I would say. You know, when you're willing to give yourself to the project and you're like, I don't know how it will work. Usually you get lots of lessons out of that. And from my practice, I bend so much metal already, so I kind of know what I'm doing, but I kind of not. So yeah, like my ideas sometimes gets crazier and crazier, but like when the outcome is good like this, you know. While I was making the ring, I had so many issues in the way, and that technical part of bending so many details soldered together was a tough cookie, I would say. But I will tell you what I've learned while making this ring, because that's the most important part, of course. And the idea of it, like when you can actually create the texture and the pattern out of just made D-shaped wire, it's so fascinating. You know how much I love D-shaped wire. We have different pattern earrings on my channel, so I'll link that somewhere here. Yeah, I love D-shaped wire. You can create so many different patterns and designs from just soldering D-shaped wire. You know, when I create pattern from D-shaped wire, I'm always hooked. I'm like, I need more. But you know, I make other projects as well, and just I forget in a way, and then I remember and I'm like, yes, we will do this one. I truly love how this ring came out, and you know, like when I finished it, I was like, I can't wait to show you this one because it's truly nice. It's modern, it's cool, it's elegant. We have all the lists that you would want from a jewelry piece, and it's just from D-shaped wire. We're not making something crazy here. You know, the craziest part that we're actually doing is the technical aspect when we're actually trying to bend that D-shaped wire. That part gets tricky. We need lots of annealing in a way, but it's so uniform. It's like perfect in the shape. We'll have longer soldering shots that you asked for, and I'm listening and giving that to you. So I hope those technical parts will give you better understanding how we can do this work more efficient, more productive. We're making our D-shaped wire as well from a round shaped wire too. I give you all the measurements as always and lead you the way how to create this beautiful ring. So let's get started. We're starting everything while making our D-shaped wire, which I usually do myself from round shaped wire because it's easy to control whatever thickness I want, and yeah, I'm doing that so many years now. As you can see, we have thicker one and we have thinner one. For thicker one, I'm using 2.5 millimeter thick round wire. For the smaller one, I'm using 2 millimeter thickness of the wire, and I'm making 1.18 millimeter thickness of D-shaped wire. And we're sawing a lot of them because we need to create full length of the ring that we need. Usually when I create these kind of rings, I need a base shape. This ring will be domed, so we will reduce a lot of the sizing. You always ask me about the size when I'm showing you these kind of rings, or, you know, whatever comes to my head kind of rings. I'm not giving exact measurements sometimes just because it depends how you will do the ring. Maybe you will bend it less than I do. So for you, of course, you will start with smaller ring than I will be doing, you know, because when we're bending, we're reducing the size. So it's like the ring is shrinking. you need a bigger size to begin with. For me, I started with a 21mm inside diameter of the ring, and I ended up with 17.5mm inside diameter of the ring, which I was seeking for. But I will show you all the ways how you can achieve your wanted size, even though you won't be that good with measuring from the beginning point. In certain steps, we actually can correct a lot of the sizing that we are trying to achieve. So I will show you that later on. And as I said, we're cutting a lot of different lengths of the wire because we're creating a specific shape of the ring. I always have the shape on my desk and I always check how much I need. Of course, I'm adding more length because I don't want to lose accuracy when I will be cutting, because it's way easier to correct the shape when you have what to correct. That's why we need longer stripes to create our wanted shape. Finally, we came to a soldering part. Usually, I always say don't use too much of the solder. Always use as much as you need, that we wouldn't have that, overflow. But in this case, we're counting time correctly because this is a lot of work if you want to have specific amount of solder. It's easier to do it this way, to put a lot of solder on and just reduce everything while we will be sanding our ring. It will be way easier than to actually have a correct amount of solder in between every stripe. We have a lot of stripes, so we don't want to play around too much. We're just making sure that all of the stripes will be soldered, and after that we will just sand everything. It's very rare occasion I will be giving you that kind of messy soldering and messy job, but it needs to be done to be quicker. And you asked for longer soldering shots, so here we go. We have a long soldering shot here, and it truly takes lots of time to heat up that thick of the metal, especially when we have a lot of pieces in between. So you want to make sure that you're not burning your solder on top. We're trying to move more around our piece to heat all that silver, and then we're coming on the top on the last point, I would say. We don't want to melt anything, we just want to solder it. So be aware that you would have to take back the fire from the piece. That's why usually we were moving around, that we wouldn't melt certain corner or we wouldn't heat certain corner more than everything else. That's how you practice. Make sure you're not sticking around on one place. And when we have so many details in the piece that we're soldering, make sure to move a bit of that solder if you see that it's not melting, because sometimes if we go with the fire on top of the solder, it gets oxidized. It's very hard for it to flow. So when you move the piece and you move that solder piece, sometimes it just gets easier to flow in that place where you want it. Okay, finally we can clean that shoulder, because, for me to look at it, I'm like, okay, we need to clean it. But if you have good sanding tools, of course, it's not that hard to do. At first, I was cleaning with softer abrasive, but to have those insides to be as sharp and clean as I wanted, I use a very sharp abrasive. When you work with abrasive tools, always make sure not to use it everywhere. The main key for us is the time. So you want to clean as softly as you can, just not to have a lot of work later on. That's why we have to be aware what kind of brushes we're actually using to clean our pieces. I have a very in-depth video about sanding and polishing where I'm talking what kind of brushes I use and what's the purpose of them. So if you're interested and you haven't seen it, check it out on my channel. This one is the harshest abrasive I have. I'm happy to announce that this video is sponsored by GRANDE, which is a big jewelry supply store. I'm buying a lot of my necessities from the metal to tools or equipment. Probably they have everything that you might need for your jewelry creations. And they're giving you a code with $20 off of your shipping price. Thank you, GRANDE, for sponsoring this video. And it's not that often that I'm using it, that's why I wasn't even mentioning this one. But if I need something very harsh and quite sharp, I will use this one always. It's very cheap and I found it in a local store, but I will try to find something similar for you. If you know how I sand, it's a rare occasion I'm not using the Deco tools. Even that sanding tool you saw before was from the Deco, and these big wheels are the gem, really. If I have a chance to use it, I will always use it. It's very quick, very uniforming. If you want that piece would be sanded very equally. The Deco wheels are the best choice, really. I can't talk more about it. I'm not sponsored, by the way, but I just love them. And here you can see how much that direction is important in our sanding. Is crucial to move with the wheel itself, depending on the shape we want to achieve. Here, stripes, the only option with direction up and down. In this step, we are correcting our ring shape because all begins with the right shape, of course. So here you can see how small I had to correct it actually. I was going with the risky road, I would say, but I would recommend to have a bit more length in those stripes. You know, I like to be risky, but it's okay. We sort that out and we have a beautiful shape to actually create the ring out of it. When it comes to the shape, you can create whatever you want from this type of stripes. You can use it wherever you want as well. Maybe make some earrings. It depends totally on you. That's why the idea is the most important thing when you create something. And I always try to give you an idea that you could bend it the way you want. You can use it in various things, not just one thing to create. Now we're forming the ring. When we have a lot of details soldered together, always be very careful when you're actually bending. That's why to have a ring bender, it's quite good, I would say, because when you want to do that on a mandrel, you will push it somewhere more. Here we can control everything, and here we're starting with bigger size than the ring is. And then we correct it with a smaller one because we won't get the harsh bend immediately. And then we can correct while we're going along the way. I had so many breakage throughout the years, and then you have to solder it in that shape where you have it. So never bend it too much. If you have breakage when you're bending, just put it the way it was going and then solder it together. That's the easiest fixing. Even though you're very good at soldering, sometimes it breaks because solder maybe melted not evenly and maybe you have air bubbles in between that soldering. So this is a very good checkup if you did a good job. All of the things that I know now actually came from fixing all of my mistakes that I had from the early on. I'm still fixing my mistakes. So, you know, it's the work part, I would say. The more you will fix your pieces, the better you will become. I can just promise you that. I'm working just with the hard solder, so the melting temperature is the same. I have to be extremely careful while I'm heating up all the ring because, you know, it can flop somewhere. And now it's the fun part, but it was kind of stressful, I would say, because I haven't tested before I was doing. So whatever you're seeing now, it's like live stream. I never bent stripe ring before, but I love to bend everything with the metal. And while I was doing that, I was like, whoa, probably this won't work. But, you know, I'm very, very stubborn when it comes to everything in my life. So this is not an exception. I will still keep on doing that. But when we have a lot of details in the piece, which were soldered before, we have to be extremely careful because we have a lot of pressure on those seams and all of that silver. You don't want to over hammer it. Better to anneal your ring more than to actually bang it full on and have breakage. It's very hard to fix those, but it's possible. I did that too. So, but better not to have it. You would be quicker to make something. While I was bending the ring in the shape I wanted, I saw that we have small cracks in between joints. That's how I came up with the idea to resolder all of the joints. I started with few when it's starting to crack. Then I was doing that for a few more. But in this way, you always lock the shape that you're in. Then to have a risk that you overstretch that soldering because the pressure is pretty much and you're bending, so you're overstretching that soldering for sure. But if you keep resoldering the joints, you're having that locked shape in and you can bend it how much you want, actually. That's very cool, I would say. Now we will speed up the time because it takes quite some time, to bend in this kind of shape, but it's so tasty looking that it's totally worth it for sure. Just look at it. We're getting that shape, getting rounder and rounder. So we have the last annealing. I don't know how many times I did anneal this piece, but it's quite thick. And it's quite a big ring in general, so you have to be prepared that you will have more work. If you want just light bend, 2 rows would be enough as well. But in this ring, I wanted full-on bending, really, because look at that. I don't even need to comment, And we will place another ring inside that we would keep all that bending, but it will be comfortable still. Now when we have that bending that we want to correct that ring that will be even around all of it. It truly comes with very patient going down with your mandrel when it comes to making that size bigger, making it even as well. I always correct my shape with the mandrel first, then I go with the file. Correction with the mandrel comes like centered more. With the file, you have less control for sure. You have to have a lot of experience to file the ring the way you want. My first option, always make sure you have the shape the easiest way. So the mandrel will be that easiest way. We don't want to ruin our curve, so we can go on top of the ring. I'm going on top of the ring just on the back of the ring because there we're not having the bend. That's why it's pretty good to have a thinner metal there, not bended one, because in this case we can correct even the size a lot when you have some flat spaces. And I would say it's more comfortable in general. When we have our shape centered, then we go with the file. Here, correction of the size can be made the most because here we're actually get rid of the metal itself. When we're working with the file, we want to use all of the file. So I'm trying my best to do that, but it's pretty hard, I won't gonna lie, because when you're going with the file, the pressure has to be even. And when you're moving with it, you have to make curves all the time. So I'm showing you 2 ways how you can correct the sizing too. You can wrap wet and dry paper on your punch as well, because there we have stable size. We're keeping the center and the size correctly. I would do that in between filing too, because it keeps you centered. It keeps you correct. It's better to check on yourself and on your piece while you're doing it, not just improvise, I will take that more with the file because I saw that in some kind of video. I never recommend to go this kind of way because either the person is a, professional in the field and works with file very well, or improvising. So we want correct sizing, Here I'm showing you the trick that I'm doing the opposite way when it comes to hammering, because in this part I had a very good sizing going. I just want a slight correction because I want all of my walls would be touching with the inside of the ring that we will be putting in this ring. But when I don't want to make it bigger, I'm not going down with the mandrel. Actually, I'm just trying to stop it and going around on my exact size with hammering. This is the process. This is how it goes sometimes, because here we're not playing with the sheet metal. We're playing with separate parts of the metal. So how it's bending, it's totally different than it would be coming from the sheet, because we do have thinner places where the ring is soldered. Now we're preparing the inside ring of our ring, because we have a big bending, and in general, like if we have bending in the ring, I always recommend to have ring inside, just to create that comfortable feeling and, you know, more correct jewelry making. I wanted to show you how I'm making this one, but I haven't found that in my footage, so I'm sorry about that. But it's pretty explanatory itself. I was just creating the ring from the sheet metal a bit higher than I needed, that I could solder it better. And then I solder it and made sure that I'm touching everywhere with my outside of the ring. It took a few times to solder. You never soldered this in one go. When you have a lot of space to solder, you don't want to go in one go. And when you do that in parts, usually solder melts way better and you're just correcting all of your bad soldering in a way as well. Now we're finishing off our ring and having exact shape that we need. It's quite easy to do. You just cut all of that extra metal off and you have a beautiful edge. If I have some gaps, I always go with my pliers on top, just very carefully, of course, resolder that again. Rings has to touch. We need a beautiful, beautiful edge. Now what's left, we need to sand that ring. And we're sanding quite a lot, but of course with these big, the deco wheels, it's pretty easy to do. We can go with harsher abrasives and then just go through with finer ones. Here you can see after every wheel how the piece is getting to that beautiful uniformed look. And of course direction, even with speeding up, you can see how straight I'm going into the wheel, because I wanted to have that even shine going straight, so I'm like kind of stretching it even more to make it a bit bigger. We're creating a bit of optical illusions sometimes, you know. Usually I'm ending up with blue wheel, and what's left I'm putting that in a tumbler. I think I got this in for 2 hours. If you want more shine, leave it for more, but it's more than enough and we have a beautiful, beautiful piece. Okay, we have a beautiful, beautiful silver ring. I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something new. You know, in every video I'm trying to include something more technical or specific, more soldering shots for you as well. So I hope this will be useful. If you have some questions, ask me in the comments. Tell me what I should do next on this channel, and yeah, I hope you liked it. And I'll see you in my next one.